Hi, good afternoon. Welcome to the Table Talk podcast debut. Our first episode will be involving the whale. I would like to introduce the hosts, obviously myself first. My name is Tanda, and my nickname will be the head of the table. We got Nicholas Koopset. I don't know why we call him Koopset, but we will run with that, and you explain that. And we got Matthew Atrokin. Again, Atrokin, don't know what that means. So I just wanted to explain to you guys why we decided to start this. Well, we have a passion for film and we would like to share that passion with the community. And we would also like the community to interact with us and share their passions about these things as well. So we have decided to start a movie channel, well, a review channel, let me say that. Okay, on to my co-hosts. Obviously, everybody needs to meet you guys and would love to understand how exactly your personalities are and you'll be fitting into this podcast. So please, can you provide me, guys, with your names, backstory of your nickname, and a movie that you admire a lot? We will start with Matthew.
So, as you know, my name is Matthew, as Thunder literally just said. My name for my gamer tag, my name was a Trocken, comes from a Star Wars thing. I read it in a book once and I thought, hey, that's cool.
So
And
when did you like read this book? Can I ask you? Like, was this like when you were a child and stuff, and you just decided that's my name, or you just like,
I was a young prepubescent little boy on the precipice of manhood when I read a book called The Darkwing Chronicles. And
Oakland Chronicles? Okay.
yeah. And I saw the name in it and I was like, cool. And only found out like only a couple of years ago that it was a Star Wars planet in a Clone
Okay.
Wars series. Yeah.
Oh, that makes sense. And cool. Well, we'll move on to a movie that you admire. Please give me a movie that comes to your
Uh,
head right now.
I enjoy Gladiator because it was one of the coolest movies and I still
Hmm.
cry even though I've watched it 10 times.
What, do you cry at Russell Crowe's death like
It is
everybody
very
pretty much?
emotional, Thunder. I mean, he saw his dead family. I mean, what
Spoiler alert, by the way, if you haven't watched Gladiator, but I think we're in 2023, so if you haven't watched that, yeah, I think I'd be
you
asking
have
questions.
bigger problems.
Yeah, Gladiator has a very good cast, and that would actually be a movie that I think we can explore in the future as well, because obviously we are looking to do newer movies and as well as older movies. So yeah, that would be something that we could actually explore. Moving on to my man Nicholas over here, Koopset. Yeah, tell me about yourself. What's happening, bro? Backstory of your name?
What, my gamer tag? Yeah, it's just a
Gamer
gamer
tag?
tag on Xbox. I had like two separate gamer tags and then I just combined them.
Ah,
And
yes, I
then,
believe you have a new gamer tag now. Sorry, I said the wrong gamer tag. I guess I'm so used to calling you Koopset.
yeah, it doesn't matter. We can forget that, but yeah, that's just a basic gamer tag,
Basic gamer tag, Koopset.
Yeah, pretty
Koopset
much.
2011.
No, no, no.
Uh, I think
That's
I felt like that just stuck with you like since high school at this point.
just been like a little nickname type thing, whatever it
Ah,
is.
oh,
Pretty
fair
much that's
enough.
it. Yeah.
And a movie that you admire?
Well, one is Alien.
Alien. Yeah,
Yeah,
we
from
all
the
love
old one,
Alien.
original. Yeah, dude, frick, amazing movie.
Excited for the
Sci-fi
new one?
horror. Was
See
a
what happens after the Covenant
Yeah, who
stuff.
knows? Covenant was like, yeah.
Kind of, yeah, it's kind of weird, wasn't it? Where they, I mean, I get the evolutions of what they're trying to get to the xenomorphs, but
I mean,
I
we
felt
can
like
we can go down that rabbit hole if you want, but yeah, like we'll see
yeah,
what the new one's like.
I feel like there's so much
Original
stuff that we
Alien,
could just. Oh yes,
beautiful. Yeah, original Alien, beautiful. Like set a standard for like sci-fi horror, just in general. I don't know.
that's
The
true.
movie's like timeless for me. So yeah.
I actually like understand you on that. Yeah, because I feel like we haven't had much of a sci-fi horror that felt like you had to be off your seat the entire time. Not
Yeah.
since
The
Alien.
thing
Oh,
is, like,
there's been a few, but
about Alien, like it's just such a slow build up, and the atmosphere and like just the sci-fi part of it does such a good job at creating this like world in space. And then obviously at the end they encounter this alien life form which they had to deal with, and that's where the horror element comes in. But yeah, amazing movie. But
all
yeah,
right.
anyways, yeah, cool.
All right, yeah, perfect. Yeah, so this is based, we are your three hosts for this episode. Also, feel free to have a look at the music that we added into. We'll put that in the description for my boy Colin. And now we will be moving on to the nitty-gritty stuff, starting with obviously the movie itself. The Whale. So The Whale is about a man that is, well, an English teacher, let me say, that is looking to reconnect with his daughter and is struggling with obesity. There's a variety of subplots that are very interesting, and we'll go into that in detail. It was directed by Darren Aronofsky. Not very familiar with his work, but I did look into some of his stuff, and he seems to have brought out Limitless from. It's got Chris Hemsworth, I believe. Don't know how that's doing. Not really something that I jumped into. Don't know if you guys have. Not at all. Okay, yeah. It was written by Samuel D. Hunter. Interesting. I think it was actually based. Some of it was based on his life, if I'm not mistaken. So that will be something good to dive into as well. It will starring Brendan Fraser from, obviously we know him from The Mummy, Journey to the Center of the Earth, and Nick's favorite movie, well, not movie, series, is it? Doom Patrol.
Doom Patrol. Well, I
Doom
wouldn't say it's
Patrol.
my favorite series, but it's definitely a series I enjoy and recommend for
I
those
def
of you who are DC
I feel
comic book
like
fans.
I had to take the mick out of you a little bit because you were telling me to watch it for such a long time, and then I
Yeah,
finally watched
bro.
the
I
first
found.
episode, and I still haven't finished it.
Yeah. Oh, it's not
Uh,
favorite one, but yeah, I enjoyed it.
Fair
Good
enough.
watch.
And yeah, we got Sadie Sink from Stranger Things. I think that's pretty much where everybody knows her from. And then Ty Simpkins from Insidious Chapter 1 and 2, and the new anticipated Chapter 5. Very interesting to see him in a movie like this. It has it's been nominated for 3 Academy Awards and actually won 2 of them, one of them being Brendan Fraser as Actor of the Year. Any thoughts on that, boys?
Yeah, he was pretty solid in the movie. He did a good job at his portrayal of the character, what they were going for, at least in my personal opinion.
All right. Matthew, any
Yeah,
comments on Brendan Fraser's
I mean,
award?
I missed him while he was not acting. The man is a very talented actor, and it's like, it's good to see him, doing what he loves.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, also good to see him in a diversified role, more serious role compared to his like more action star background. Even in Doom Patrol, he was pretty serious, but still there's a bit of comedy and stuff with the action tied in. But yeah, this is like pretty dramatic role for
All right,
Brendan.
so
Yeah.
touching onto that, what was your expectations coming into this movie, especially when you're seeing that Brendan Fraser's making a comeback return into something that he could quite relate to in a lot of ways, in terms of the fact that obviously in The Mummy he was a very aesthetic person. Now obviously he gained weight and lost his confidence. So
I
coming into a
mean,
movie like this, what was your expectations before you actually watched it? We'll start with you, Nick.
with me, okay. Well, I didn't really have any expectation except for I knew it was going to be pretty dramatic and like serious, But one thing like that definitely caught my attention is how the story starts with like a very like comedic kind of whatever it is, and then it does away with all the funny things of the movie by instantly turning to something serious straight after in the intro movie or to the movie, whatever it is. But yeah.
So did you expect it to be a little bit more comedic, or
No. I thought it was
exactly
gonna
what
be
you thought
serious.
would be?
Like yeah. I thought it was gonna be pretty serious down the alley. So yeah.
All right. Matthew, what about you? What are you thinking? What was your expectations? Were they met? What exactly were you thinking coming into watching The Whale and then leaving?
So I knew it was going to be a heavy, dramatic film. I did not expect it to be, okay, excuse the heavy pun there,
Oh
but
yeah, and by the way, spoilers. We'll say that, or I don't know if we said that.
Oh yeah, well, I mean that will be in the tag. Yeah, spoiler discussion over here, so just keep in mind before you
Yeah,
decide
sorry,
to
Matt.
dive
Sorry.
yeah,
further into this.
all
But
good.
it will be in the title of the video, so you will know there's spoilers in here. Matthew, back to you.
Yeah, I knew it was going to be a heavy film because there was a whale in it. But other than that, it was really,
Really?
I mean, it was a whale. She's
I
not
mean,
wrong.
it was quite,
First
and there was an
episode, we can get
ocean.
cancelled now.
Uh,
I
but
mean, yeah, a whale, ocean.
it
Fair
was
enough.
very interesting pacing. Like it only took like a couple of days, but it was like it really felt like slow and lethargic, which like a boat, it just builds and builds and builds, kind of like becoming that weight. Like you just don't realize how long it takes, and then boom. I think they did a really good job on how the movie runs, and I'm not gonna lie, I cried my eyes out.
You
Uh,
cried.
Yeah.
I cried
Emotion.
heavy.
I cried the first time as well, actually, and now that I think about it, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very emotional. Maybe it's a little bit of sentiment towards it, because I wouldn't say we went through something to that magnitude, but we can kind of relate in terms of obviously maybe some of the aspects of depression.
Or what? Having a kid with your wife and Oh yeah.
No,
so-
no, no. I mean like the depression aspect
and
of
then
it.
like
You know what I
leaving
mean?
her for another man.
You don't relate. You don't have to relate purely to that. I mean, technically, the writer, you didn't. I don't think the writer was obese, but he related to it in a lot of ways, and he just chose that. I'm not too sure, but I know the movie is based on his life, but I don't know if he actually reached that weight necessarily. But he was gay. Well, it still is gay. So he wrote this story from an angle that he felt would be told in a much more maybe authentic light in terms of that. But yeah, I guess that's what he went. Maybe that's what he went for. Maybe he didn't. I don't know.
Okay, should we get
Uh,
into the nitty gritty stuff then?
yeah. So obviously now that we have got our expectations and we had our first thoughts and how we felt coming out of it. In fact, I'll give you mine because I actually haven't said my piece with it. So obviously my expectations coming in was it was definitely going to be a sad movie. And when I came out of it, I guess I still got the same. My expectations were met, but obviously in terms of Brendan Fraser's performance, I felt that nobody else could have actually entered that role any better than he did, and you could see that he put everything into that. And to see him in a role that is not, his usual sort of like action styled type of roles, and come into this and sort of like explore a new avenue, it was very interesting to me too. Actually, I would say I was pretty much blessed to see something like that. And obviously him winning the Oscar and stuff pretty much shows the level of elitism that he has in acting. But yeah, I just wanted to next go through some of obviously the plot itself. So we'll start with the main plot and then we will sort of diverge into the subplots. And I have a few interesting questions in particular for Matthew. Also for you, Nick, but we'll dive into it and sort of like
Because
One
I
thing
was
I
kind
want,
around it.
one thing I
Um,
just do want to reiterate with my point in terms of the intro to the movie, like the director does a good job, or the writer. I don't know what the screenplay is like for the play, but him jerking off like in the beginning, dude, I was laughing, like I was fucking laughing. But as soon as he had like his little mini heart attack, like all the laughter disappeared from the movie pretty much throughout. Like there was no more like funny. It pretty much was like, oh yeah, okay, that was a funny, haha. He's jerking off fat dude on the couch, haha. And now he's having a heart attack. Holy shit, this is serious shit, Boom.
yeah, it's that like level of grounding in
Yeah,
reality.
yeah. It kind of like ground. It puts you in like a pretty solid place where you take it seriously because it's like, yo, this dude like literally almost died. But still like, bro, I don't know, the way it started, dude. The way it started was like kind of weird because like, what the fuck, bro? Some missionary kid shows up while this dude's jerking to gay porn, and he's like, oh yeah, and then I'm having a heart attack, kinda, or I need help. Like he's like, bro, can you get my phone off the floor? Your phone. I don't know.
I think it's interesting because he was also uncomfortable, maybe not only at the fact that he was watching porn, but the fact that obviously Ty's character is very uncomfortable with the idea of homosexuality. So to see his reaction to the fact that he was watching gay
Yeah, you
porn
could see
and
that. That was kind of like a precursor, but like,
yeah, it's a general theme in the movie where obviously he's trying to
yeah, and
sort of
they
virtue
play
signal.
pretty heavily into the whole religious anti-gay type thing, Like
Yes,
in terms of
yeah.
the how do you say, the overlying messages being portrayed in the film with religion, in terms of like how gay doesn't fit into the religion, that kind of thing.
That spectrum.
Or
Yeah,
or
let
or
alone
not just
obesity.
gay, should I say? It's more anything outside of the norm, like smoking weed or doing drugs, right? His parents kind of like sent him to be a missionary to fix him, kind of thing.
Yeah. We'll
Yeah,
dive into that actually just now. I
yeah,
want to
yeah.
ask you though. So Charlie, his relationship with his daughter Ellie, I felt like it was obviously a very toxic one, but at the same time, Charlie
Is it toxic?
tends to.
I found it was toxic from maybe the daughter side, because she had this image of her dad, obviously, for the past, what, 9 years? They said he hadn't seen her for 8, 9 years.
Yeah, about
But I
nine
mean,
years. Yeah.
Charlie, you could see, was very engrossed in like getting to know his daughter in whatever way. You can see he didn't have like a negative thought to her pretty much throughout every interaction with her.
I
I
felt
think he
like
was pretty endeared by his daughter. Like it was the one thing he cared about the most throughout the
yeah,
film.
I felt like his relationship with her, like I said, like it was toxic, but in a sense also it was very toxic from her perspective from what happened. But then he seems to always give her the benefit of the doubt. Is there any, so Matthew, I just want to ask you this. Is there any reason why you think he seems to keep being positive despite the fact that she essentially said herself she wants him to die, things like that? So why would he have this unrelenting love for her and care for her, despite the fact that she says all those things?
I think it's also, so for me, it's like it was very interesting that they like literally like she kept trying to push him away, she kept trying to push him away, she kept trying to push him away, like essentially like devalue his life, like in her life. And I thought it was very interesting that he kept being positive, but I think it's because he knew his existence wasn't exactly fruitful. After he lost his partner, after everything and the way he lost his partner and everything that happened, he literally became like a shell of a human being. He literally logged onto his computer, did his thing, ate. Like it was just a vicious cycle of just perpetual despair. And I think he stayed very positive because he thought that she could be the change that he needed in the life, or that she could be the one gleaming hope of his existence.
Yeah, like the daughter, like definitely wanted to paint her dad as like a bad guy, or wanted to get a reaction out of him, and then obviously that never happened, just because it's not that the kind of person he is, kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Thomas Nicholas, obviously he had his redemption arc, and so the story about Thomas is basically he decided to do some drugs. His dad found out and then sent him on a mission to hopefully change him and repent his sins. And that led to him obviously taking some money and running off and having a purpose of changing somebody. What do you think of that level or that direction of writing in terms of Thomas? Do you think that was something that needed to be added into a show like this? Something that added some richness and sort of dynamic between the characters? Or did you think it was more something that was to add filler?
Well, like Thomas is pretty like, I don't know, he's complex in the sense that for him dealing with his relationship and his family, right, and religion, and then him trying to like obviously he's trying to prove to himself, should I say, rather than say God or whatever, that he can make a change, and then obviously for like spread God's message, or whatever he wants that to be a thing, because obviously he explains that he wants to be happy like his family and friends back home, which he like left. So he's like definitely a conflicting part of the character there in terms of dealing with that. But then also like at the same time he's very naive in terms of his outlook on things compared to like that's why I think it's good contrast between him and Charlie, because Charlie has pretty much been through it all. He's read it all. He knows it all.
I thought it was very, sorry to interrupt, but I thought it was very interesting when Charlie said that he read the Bible and he still has the beliefs that he does. Obviously, people, when you get people that believe and they read the books and the scriptures and everything, and then you get people that don't believe and choose not to read those scriptures.
No, that's the thing. It's like
people sort of in the middle where they don't believe it, but they'll still read it and they'll still come to that conclusion. So why do you think Charlie would come to such a conclusion?
Well, obviously, the main thing is that he knows. Well, he kind of like was inducted into religion because of his partner in the movie, right? The film. His partner, I think, was Alan, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think it was Alan. I'll have to double check that.
Yeah, double check. But yeah, I mean, you can see that his lover Alan had like a very in-depth relationship with religion because of the parenting, right? And obviously he's gay, so that kind of like definitely fucked with him in terms of like how he lived his life, and then obviously him falling in love with Charlie, and then having to deal with that. Obviously, Charlie gets to see the side of that kind of thing, the confliction that he saw in his partner, and then he kind of like he definitely made his assumption or based off how Alan was treated maybe by his parents, the church, and then obviously his relationship with him, kind of a thing. But yeah, there's a lot of deep shit in this movie.
There's a lot of there's a lot to unpack.
Yeah,
actually, when
bro,
you
like
think
for a
about it.
first movie,
Yeah.
this is a lot to unpack, bro. Like not just the religious shit, but like the family stuff and then the self-defeating personality of Charlie. He's just self-defeated, bro. Like you can see he's
Mm.
given up. That's why they
Kind of
have
accepted his fate at
yeah,
that
he's
point.
accepted his fate. He's kind of just trying to, make ends meet and at the same time tie up loose ends, and try to, he's trying to just live out the rest of his days, kind of thing. And then obviously that's when what's his name, William or Thomas? Thomas shows up, right?
Yeah, Thomas. Yeah.
Thomas shows up out of nowhere, almost like, God is kind of like knocking on his door or sending somebody to knock on his door to make him relive all of this. Because after that, like all the stuff starts unfolding, like, his daughter comes to see him again. And then he's obviously being hit with the reality check of like, he's literally going to die of like a heart attack in like a week because he refuses to go to the hospital, whatever reason. But yeah.
Matthew. So Thomas's discussion with Liz. Liz is Charlie's caretaker. I just wanted to ask you from your perspective. Obviously, they had that conversation outside about religion and how she felt that it took her brother's life. Now, obviously, you got a very deep relationship with God. I don't want to turn this into more of a philosophical podcast, but I felt like it would be very interesting to get an insight in that.
But wasn't it more the parents? She was angry at her parents for
Yeah.
denying her brother, and just like pretending that he died because, of an accident, rather than like because he was shunned by his own family and friends and that kind of thing.
It is, but remember, Nick, he came out to be Charlie's lover at the end.
Yeah.
So it's that repressed nature that they couldn't accept him for what he was.
Yeah, I mean, he couldn't accept himself. Like his
He
sister
couldn't,
even
yeah.
said, his sister in the movie literally says to Charlie, like, he would have jumped off that bridge because obviously he kills himself by jumping off a bridge at the end. But he would have jumped off that bridge way before you met, or if he didn't meet you way before, he would have killed himself long before you met you, kind of a thing. Yeah, it's kind of sad.
Yeah. So in terms of Liz's conversation, Matthew, what did you feel?
I think it's true to an extent, and I think it's a lot of people who give up on religion because of generally like a tragedy or something that impacts them negatively that they can't get over, they can't make peace with it, they can't, it's God's fault for whatever happened. It's not necessarily the parents who couldn't mismanage it. And if they use the parents, it's because of the religion. Like it's a whole systemic thing. And even as Nicholas pointed out, he said he would have done it anyway. So when does it become a religious aspect in that? But I honestly think you can't manufacture things like awkwardly, because if you look at Charlie's life, right, he and Alan both ended up dying, but Charlie couldn't necessarily acknowledge his like eating. He kept telling everyone, "Oh, I'm sorry. But he never actually like said, "This is my fault. This is why this is all on me. He just apologized because he felt that was all he could do." So I think the religious thing was also a really interesting ploy with Thomas as well, coming into the whole conversation of them having this clash of to be or not to be kind of thing. And it was because if you're thinking about it, like Thomas is the only one who came out of that situation unscarred. Everyone else has baggage left because of what transpired in those couple of days.
Do you think that baggage, from Liz's perspective, do you think it's justified the way she treated Thomas in terms of how he sort of, oh no, he's the missionary, he's the enemy?
Yes, but I think yes. One thing, sorry to jump in, Matt.
Oh, good.
The one thing that she said to him, right, is like, oh, he's gonna go on this mission or whatever, go back and have a happy family. That's kind of like the plan in the end. And that's literally what happens. Because what happens, his parents and loved ones forgive him and tell him to come home.
So he sort of felt that his father had written him off, but then now, obviously, when
at the end, he's kind of like so Ellie, like immature in that sense, like when
because Ellie obviously like told his parents where he was, and then
Yeah.
his parents were
And he's kind of just like,
arms.
yeah, he's invited back. And then I'm pretty sure that's where it leads in the end, because that Thomas is naive in the sense where he thinks everything is like goes the way it says, but obviously it doesn't. And it's proven to him that way, because literally Ellie gets his parents and friends to forgive him and want him back to come home, kind of a thing. So he kind of gets like proven wrong, right?
Mm.
In that sense. And then he kind of just like accepts that and leaves. He's kind of played into the stereotype, if you will, because at the end, what does he do? He shouts disgusting at Charlie because he loses himself. And then yeah, you can see who he truly is. So Liz was right, technically. Thomas was that kind of a person, even though he didn't want to admit it. But then he does. And then obviously he leaves and goes about his thing. But yeah.
Charlie's relationship with Liz and her brother. Actually, let's start with her brother, and then we can obviously like dive into how that formed his relationship with Liz. Do you think that relationship was something that? Do you think it was a relationship that sort of like rippled the entire aura of what's going on in his life? So, do you think his relationship should have never happened in a sense because of how the outcomes have happened? You understand what I'm saying? Or do you feel like it's one of those things where love happened and he obviously died and that completely destroyed Charlie and everything around him? So do you think, I think let me put it into a better question. Do you think their relationship was toxic? If you as an audience had to see it from an outside perspective, obviously not knowing too much about the relationship.
No.
Not at all. You think it's love? You think it was
I mean, clearly it is, but unfortunately, the thing is, right? They put a narrative in. As I said, they play into the religious anti-gay thing pretty hard, right? That Alan, obviously, he feels like he's kind of failed his family, and now he's been kind of like outcast. But he's found love with Charlie. I mean, Liz even says those were like the happiest years of his life before he killed himself. And then it goes to the fact that emphasize that, oh, in the Bible, when Thomas is literally reading from the Bible that, oh, if you just admit that you're not gay and whatever the fuck, and that you made a mistake and then you die, your soul can still be saved. But then obviously Charlie is like, he has a different perspective of it. Like, that's his love for his partner, whenever Alan wasn't like a bad thing, and he isn't bad. It's just that you, Thomas, think you just see him, well, you see me as disgusting, kind of a thing,
That
I think
makes
that's
sense.
yeah. If I don't know if I'm explaining it correctly, but you get the
I
gist
get
of what
it.
I'm trying to say. As I said, like they have very strong narratives of, oh, this. It's kind of naive in a sense because, like, yeah, it's just a very strict Christian perspective in the movie. With Charlie, who's like a gay man. Who's
Yes.
Nicholas, the one interesting thing I found out, right, about this whole story is if you look at Charlie and Alan's relationship, right, Alan died by starving himself. He didn't really eat. He didn't like
yeah,
do.
anorexia and
sort of like-
obesity, right?
It
Yeah,
was sort of
they
like the opposite
literally
perspective.
they're the two
They both
sides of
had
the same
eating
coin.
disorders. And the thing is, like, anorexia is what? The condition of you think you're fat.
Yeah, it's sort of the condition of it's so
It's the
you
eating
basically
I don't want to be
confuse
stupid.
you
I'm sorry.
So
Yeah.
you basically with anorexia, I've watched a movie about it with Lily Collins. It's called To the Bone, and it was a very interesting insight on anorexia. But it's basically you sort of like trick your body into eating, but then you don't eat. So what she would used to do was she used to like have a cupcake, right? And she'll eat the cupcake and enjoy the taste of the cupcake. And the body is thinking that obviously the cupcake is gonna get down and digest, but then she spits the cupcake into a napkin. So it's like the act of reducing as much calories as possible, but at the same time your body's hunger or trigger of hunger is sort of tricked. It's obviously it's eating the sort of like you're thinking you're too big, so you're trying to get as skinny as possible. So it's literally just taking.
But it's
calories.
weird because he's
yeah.
anorexic, but he's still, like Charlie says, he still called him beautiful, right? And Charlie has always been big.
Did
so
they confirm the diagnosis of
No, that's the
anorexia.
thing. We don't know, but we're just assuming here, which is should
I
be
think when I
easy to
watched
do
the
that.
first time, I also assumed that it was
Because
Yeah,
or eating
you
disorder.
can look at it this way, right?
it
Both
could be
of them,
depression. He could be just not
yes,
eating
they're
because he
both
was depressed.
depressed.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then obviously depression sets in with Charlie when Alan dies because he literally eats himself to death.
yeah,
Exactly.
and he went the other route. He was like, I'm
Yeah,
not.
yeah. Like Alan was
Boy,
Alan was happy, but he couldn't come to deal with the fact that he wasn't accepted by the church and his parents for being gay. And then Charlie was kind of had to deal with Alan dying, and then he couldn't deal with that, so he kind of like killed himself in that sense. But he couldn't. Yeah, it's very defeatist, bro. This
it
movie is
is.
very
Yeah.
like, oh, that's it. That's the end all. There's nothing. But there's so many opportunities in this movie where it's like this guy could have saved himself, but he literally is just given up, kind of a thing. There's no
Mm.
point.
Feel like we have talked about a lot of rich stuff from The Whale, and I'd like to talk a little bit more. But we just want to, what we need to do right now, boys, is we just need to obviously run through the plot, and then we can sort of like give our verdicts and pros and cons and all that.
Okay.
But Matthew, I have a question for you. Charlie's relationship with Liz. Explain that to me. What are you thinking is the problems that are lying there?
So here's the funny thing that I've noticed, right? Liz will continue saying no, she's concerned about Charlie. She will, literally pile drive him into oblivion to try and save
It
his life.
doesn't.
And yet she still gives him subs and she still enables him. She'll hand him a bucket of chicken.
That's all, bro. Thank you, Matt. Sorry. It was just a
Yeah.
point I was making with the character types because I've been like noting them throughout.
Yeah, she's enabling him while being concerned for him. It is something that a lot of very heavy people deal with, is when people say, we're so concerned about you, but here, have a pizza, or here, have this. It is enabling him ultimately in a negative way. And I think the fact that no one ever said no to him, and I also think that because she's so sympathetic to his loss and her loss, she's just trying to like give him a little bit of joy before he, kicks the bucket. So I
You know what I find?
genuinely, Hmm?
Sorry to interrupt you, but I find it odd also with her because she seems to be his carer, right? But then at the same time, so she enables him to do all these terrible things and sort of like accepts it as, what Charlie has made his decision. But as soon as she found out about Ellie's trust fund that he created, it was all of a sudden a pushback of like, but you shouldn't be doing this because you should be getting health. Do you think there's a contradiction in there and the writers could have sort of like done a little bit better with that? Or do you think that is a double standard that can be realistic?
No, I think the double standard there is intentional. If you spend any time watching like My 600 Pound Life and whatever, these people are like 600 pounds overweight, and then it's like, oh no, you have to lose X amount before the next visit, which is in 2 months, and then they stay the same weight. And then they're like, no, but I've been eating everything you've told me to. No, 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 no. Then meanwhile, it's the son or the husband or the sister or the brother or someone in the family who
Yeah.
goes out, brings food to them, and just gives them the food as much as they want.
Is
So
that what you asked, Tinder?
it's
Yeah. So I was asking about her double standard towards the fact that she'll allow him to eat himself to death. But then
Yeah.
as soon as
Yeah.
she found out that Ellie has a trust fund, now it's a case of, but you should be helping yourself get better.
it is
Yeah.
a hypocrisy.
They're
Thunder,
double.
you're
Is
right.
there is so yeah? I'm asking, is the hypocrisy within a show like this justified, or would you consider it a plot hole?
No, I consider it very realistic.
Yeah.
Very realistic.
Yeah,
Nicholas,
because
your thoughts?
yeah, at the end of the day, like Liz is, like Matt said, perfect analogy. She's an enabler in this. That's her characteristical trait. She's very supportive, but at the same time, that can be damaging in the case of Charlie because it's literally led to him killing himself. And
I
she-
personally think she's a fantastic character, by the way.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
yeah.
she's definitely one
Definitely.
of the upper
Played
top of characters.
played perfectly, like the role and everything
She,
like that.
the
But
actress, in my
like,
opinion, should have won an award as well. But
yeah.
I guess I haven't seen any of the other
dude,
performances.
all of them did such a good job, at actually portraying what they were. But I was noting down, like just a side note, I was noting down all the character types. And I was like, Charlie is like very positive, but he's like a defeatist, so he's like kind of like, he's kind of given up, right? So what would you call that? Like, yeah,
He's sort of ambitionless and
yeah, it's
like
kind of like,
giving up
yeah,
on life.
yeah. And then obviously his daughter's different because she's a realist. She's a
Yes.
realist.
Yes.
And then you've got Thomas, who's not a realist. He's like the opposite of that, right?
Into the faith and sort of like
Yeah.
destiny
It's
and
not just like the
saving
faith.
people.
It's just his person.
Spirituality, I would say.
Yeah, but it's just his personality is very like, it's, I don't know. It's not real. It's not real. It's like definitely a fake outlook on things. Like he has a very set perspective, but nothing to back it up, kind of a thing. And then obviously you've got the mother, who's like also, like, bro, that's also a good character. Like for the
Mother,
amount of time,
great actress, by the way. She's
yeah.
from The Walking Dead. She plays as Alpha. She is honestly one of those gems that every time I see her on screen, her name, if I'm not mistaken, I have their names here. Her name is Samantha Morton. Yes, she is a very strong personality woman, and I feel like she definitely portrayed that in this movie. Yeah, quite rich to sort of like have somebody like her in it.
Where like all the characters were very well utilized, right? They weren't just like there; they were all there for very good reasons in the story, like to push the plot forward. Like
The
because,
Pizza Man.
dude, he also served like a purpose of like the one thing I notice about the direction of the film, right? I don't know, as I said, I don't know the play, but the director, right, Darren Aronofsky, he did a good job at like making the home feel like a prison that Charlie's put himself in.
Yeah, you
And
never
then
leave the house. That's the
yeah,
set.
but the thing is, every time he looks outside, it's always negative. Every time that he looks outside or he goes outside, kind of, he never actually goes outside, but yeah, every time that kind of thing, it's always negative. So the broken plate with the apples, I don't know. Maybe was it Alan or something that put the plate there?
I think it was Alan. I wasn't too sure what the story of
Yeah,
the plate
yeah.
was, but the
The
plate
the
seemed to
pizza
have caused the
delivery
trigger
guy
for it.
looking at him in shock when he comes to get the pizza, right? And then the fact when he looks outside to see Thomas and Liz arguing, and then she says, "Yo, he's gonna fucking just let him die," whatever the fuck.
The pizza guy, right?
Yeah.
Honestly, I find that scene when he sort of like sees him for the first time, that was very powerful. And this is why, right? Like you said, it's that outside perspective of every time he seems to put himself out there, he seems to get this pushback of judgment. And this man, obviously
Always negative.
he's played by Satya Suridian. I mean, I haven't seen him at all, but honestly, like just for his face, I'm like, yo, hire that guy for another role. But yeah, I feel like when he sees him grabbing those pizzas and the shock on his face, even though he sort of like he showed some interest in his life. He was like, "Oh, you okay? Oh, pizza box every single time." He sort of developed some sort of respect, and then as soon as he saw him, that respect kind of got thrown out the window. Or no, I wouldn't even say the respect, but the sort of like the normality of the situation. Did you guys feel like you got the same sort of like hit from that scene specifically?
Well, I mean, you can see Dan, the pizza guy. He was like just horrified, right? You can see he's a nice guy because he's kind of like been there a lot. Because he keeps saying like, "Oh yeah, I was here before," kind of a thing, And then obviously he says his name, "I'm Dan, by the way." And then Charlie's like, "Yeah, I'm Charlie." And then the fact that he waited outside just to see, because that's the thing with curiosity. And then he's obviously horrified by Charlie's appearance, and then Charlie just eats himself into a coma after that, to deal with that kind of social rejection almost from the body shame side of things. I don't know, like that's the thing, is like that's also a feeling you can get, right? I don't know if you guys can relate. Like if you have maybe low self-confidence, then you kind of feel maybe like eyes are always on you, kind of a thing.
I think Dan is a very good symbol for the world, and that is why he locked himself away, because Dan was very nice to him, greeted him,
same with his class as well, his class, right? His classroom, same thing. Dan and the classroom that he taught, they're both like two outlooks into like the outside world, and how they look at him just shows.
Yeah, I like that shot when he sort of revealed himself, and you got like
Yeah,
different reactions were
yeah, all those
realistic.
people
You
were
had
like
people that were
putting
laughing, and
their
people that were sad, the people that were
and
disgusted.
yeah, I'm putting their hand over their mouth, like, oh my gosh, like, oh.
Mm. Okay, the last part that I think we can discuss, and then we'll start moving on to opinions. The poem, not the poem, the essay itself that was written by Ellie. I'd like to unpack that a little bit. So I would like to read this. So in the amazing book Moby Dick by author Herman Melville, the author recounts his story of being at sea. In the first part of his book, the author, calling himself Ishmael, is a small seaside town, and he is sharing a bed with a man named Kukeg. I probably said that wrong. The author and Kukeg go to church, later set out on a ship captained by a pirate named Ahab, who is missing a leg and very much wants to kill the whale, which is named Moby Dick, and which is white. In the course of the book, the pirate Ahab encounters many hardships. His entire life is set around trying to kill a certain whale. I think this is sad because the whale doesn't have any emotions and doesn't know how bad Ahab wants to kill him. He's just a poor big animal, and I feel bad for Ahab as well as because he thinks that his life will be better off if the whale is killed. But in reality, it won't help him at all. I was very saddened by this book, and I felt many emotions for the characters. I felt the saddest of all when I read the boring chapters that were only descriptions of whales, because I knew that the author was trying to save us from his own sad story just for a little while. This book made me think about my own life, and it made me feel glad for my. That is the last monologue that
Yeah,
is
and obviously
set.
the whale is Charlie, and then the pirate, Ahab or whatever it is Ellie,
Is
right?
Ellie.
Yeah,
Why, breaking down that, what is Ellie thinking when she's
that she
writing
wants her
this?
dad to die the entire time, right? Like he's gonna burn in hell and all that shit. But she realizes at the end that she'll be better off with him in her life. That's why she says daddy, whatever it is, daddy
Yeah.
something, and then looks at him, and
Has
then
Ellie forgiven her father
yeah,
in this moment in time?
you can definitely see so because she wasn't sure if he cared about her until the moment where he gave her the poem that he wrote that she written when she was 8, which is when he left.
Matthew, I feel like you're very moved by the ending of this movie. I don't know if it's in particular from this type of monologue. What were you thinking at this point in time when she was reading the essay?
I I think the thing with the whole build-up of the poem and everything, because he read it on himself, he read it multiple times.
It
I
calms him
think
down.
I think it was that poem was the inevitability of his death. Because even when he met Thomas the first time, he said, "No, I thought I was gonna die, so I wanted to hear it one last time." And I think what moved me was the last scene. He finally got to the person who wrote it, his daughter. He loved so much to finally read in her voice the one he probably heard when reading the poem. He realized this was going to be my last time hearing this. This is going to be my final set on stage. And I feel it really moved me because I think genuinely she was also scared. As much as she disliked and got angry at her father, she did still love him in her own way, because when she opened the door to like walk out, she said, "Daddy, please." It just goes to show that there was a lot more deeper emotion that both of them showed. And I think through that monologue, it all just came like to the surface. So like his love for her love for him, that like their forgiveness, very, very powerful stuff.
Well,
Fantastic.
I have a different perspective on terms of like how he thought. I thought Charlie would have thought that he's got one. Well, he did one thing right in his life to do some good in his life before he dies, which is obviously his daughter, and making sure she grows up okay and everything like that.
Doing
And
right
that's
by
kind
her.
of yeah. And then his anxiety is kind of calmed when he gets Thomas to read that essay or poem, whatever the heck, of Ellie's in the beginning of the film. It kind of like calms him, because it's like something that eases his anxiety, like, oh, something that isn't wrong compared to everything else that has already gone wrong and he can't undo, kind of a thing.
Um,
You, Thunder, how did you
so
see it?
so the thing with me, right, is I think there was definitely a build up. The whole point of the entire movie was based off of this essay that she wrote when she was 8. And if I'm not mistaken, that was when he left. So it kind of takes you back and puts you in her shoes in the sense of how she felt very lost. And when she describes these characters, in particular the whale, that is her essentially describing how she hates her father so much. But then she starts to realize that even though she resents him, she still has this love for him. And I think it was hard for her to see the love that he gives back. Obviously because of everything that happened, and her mother is very difficult in terms of understanding her. But I think it was very important when she read that part at the end. I think the ending itself and visually could have been done a little bit better. Like when he floats in the sky, I was like,
Bro, we can go
you
into
know what I mean?
criticism. Don't worry. I'm
But
gonna go off on this movie, but yeah.
we'll get to that part. But yeah, I think it was the direction that the direction obviously Darren went with was he wanted to create this sentimental ending to heighten your emotions, and I think he definitely achieved that, but specifically with me and Matthew. And I'm sure most of the casts, I mean, I've met many friends that told me they all felt very emotional. But yeah, I think that's my overall thoughts on that. Now, coming on to any criticisms or actual like thoughts, do you guys think that this movie is overall a worth the watch? Or do you think there's a few things that you want to like let out that are like could have been
Okay,
done
well,
better?
first of all, like the positives of the movie, the actors, don't get me wrong, the actors all did such a good job in their role. Like the characters are pretty well written, and the actors do a good job at portraying those characters. But then when it comes to like, I don't know, this is the kind of movie I feel like if you don't like drama and shit, like I wouldn't watch it.
So not for you if you're into sort of like the depressing drama,
Yeah, because dude,
reality
okay,
type stuff.
this movie was good based on the actor's perspective, and like the story is okay for me, right? But my criticism is dude, it's fucking depressing, dude. That's the thing. Like until like the end, like sure the end's a bit like happy, but at the same time, it's like the ending is nothing. I don't know. I've just felt like
You felt like you came out a bit sort of like empty at the end.
yeah. Was there a point to really watching this movie other than to like feel bad about Charlie and thing? I
It'll
don't know.
be interesting to watch the player. Matthew.
So I'm gonna contrast Nick's pessimism
Ding
towards
ding
the ending.
ding.
And
Sorry,
think
I had to put it, but yeah.
I think if you look at the perspective from we're all humans, we all have flaws, but also like the damaging any addiction really, because Charlie's addiction was food, unfortunately, and like he literally stopped taking care of himself. He stopped doing that. And I'm not sure, Tanda, I think you can relate to this as well. Maybe not as much as me, but the fact that once you start like letting little things go and you let more and more stuff go to the point where you are addicted to certain kind of things, and you are addicted to like food, for example, was also one of my biggest problems. Was I was just like eat, do nothing, eat, don't leave the house and stuff like that. And I think that's why this movie struck a bit of a nerve, because it could show you a possible future of where I would have ended up. And I do agree with Nick on the point that it's not for everyone. I don't think everyone will enjoy it. It is good to watch a movie that isn't always just about laughter, or it isn't just about action. It's not about just that stuff. It's about something real. This movie was pretty damn real.
I understand that. Yeah, it touches on things that people sort of like
Well, it's pretty heavy.
struggle with
That's
on
the
a
thing.
daily basis. That's why we were talking about earlier about the relation of how people can relate to this movie.
It's literally about a guy dying in his last week on Earth.
Yeah,
But
essentially.
we don't even know if he dies because they don't even give us that fucking ending. He just like floats in the
Floats
sky
in
and
the air.
ascends.
It's like, ooh.
I thought he was gonna like run to a beach or something and then get into the water, then like have a heart attack in the ocean or something like that. And it's like,
He's dead, Nick. We all know he's dead. It's fine.
Well, I mean, we don't know because that's the thing. They didn't show us.
I think my thoughts definitely. I think I lean towards Nicholas on this. The thing is, I think Brendan Fraser's performance was.
Bro, the actors were
elite.
top tier.
And
in
it's
this
not
film.
just him, yeah.
But
like,
the story
the
is
actor.
not for everyone. No ways you go like to a person that likes, happy rom-coms or whatever and tell them to go watch The Whale. Like this is the kind of movie where you eat too much takeaway and you're sitting on your recliner chair and you just feel like shit. That's how this movie makes you feel at the end of it, kind of a thing.
But yeah, I think the acting was definitely elite. Brendan
Yeah.
Fraser,
They definitely make you feel
deserved-
like there's some heavy stuff.
he definitely deserved
Yeah.
praise that
The
he got.
portrayal of the characters were really good. Ugh.
In terms of the others, I think they did the best. I think they did very well. I think the lady that acted as Liz was fantastic as well. I felt like Sadie's character, it kind of I felt like they didn't do justice with her character, but she did justice with the acting. And Sadie tends to do that with like the boss little, the boss bitchy little girl. I think she did that fantastically. In terms of the direction of the writing of the show, I do think that the show is very limited with what they were trying to achieve, especially in terms of the fact that most of it was a feel sorry for me type of thing. So, I mean, that's not the whole point of the movie, but I do feel like they
Yeah, it's a
really
redemption film. It's
appeal
literally
to,
about him trying to
yeah,
get
I feel like
his,
they really appeal to like
yeah.
your emotions, and they're trying to get you that reaction to be sad and upset and depressed. And I think that sort of like strangled the other side, which was, actually getting to know the characters and understanding them more in depth. Like somebody like Thomas, to be honest, I think he's gone through some stuff, but I don't really care about him that much because it's always about what Charlie's going through. Yeah, I think there needs to be a balance in terms of when you want your audience to feel very sad and when you want your audience to actually connect with the underlying tone of the story. That is my thoughts. Verdicts, Nicholas.
Me, you
Please
want me
give
to go
me
first?
please give me a score, 1 to 10, 6 being average.
Okay, it's definitely above average. I'll give it like a 7 on 8, probably like a 7 more for me because obviously, okay, the story, I think, I don't know, bro, it is pretty heavy. And at the end, I didn't feel like, I don't know, I didn't feel too satisfied with the ending of the film.
7 out of 10, unsatisfying ending. Matthew, please give me a score, 1 to 10, 6 being average.
So I think I'll give it, a decent like 8.5 to 9. But that's more because I could relate to it. I think it
So
hit
must I go with 9?
Yeah, you can go with a 9. I'll give it a solid 9. I think it's just because it resonated a lot more with me. The fact that I don't know, it was just very, very deep, and I don't know, I just resonated.
You resonated. You felt like you could relate to a lot of it. I can see the relation definitely because the first time I watched it, I definitely had that relation. For me, I am going to run with a 7.5. The reason why it can't reach the 8 for me is I think Nick nailed it on the coffin in terms of the appeal. I feel like the director is really trying to like make you sad and upset, which worked, but he could have dived in a little bit more in terms of storytelling. And I think Brendan Fraser's acting was sort of the one that brought this movie to life. Whereas if it was anybody else, it just would have been this feel sorry for me, sad fest. But yeah, I definitely understand what you mean, Matt, by the relation to it. Anything you guys want to add to what we unpacked, or have we pretty
I'd love
much
to see
used-
more of these actors in roles. Brendan Fraser, Sadie Singh, Hong Chow, T. Simpkins, Samantha Morton. Like they all did such a fantastic job. Even Dan, even though we saw him for like what, a minute, or what, not even 10 seconds staring at him, I think they all did such a good job in their roles. Sadie, an actor of her age, how old is she? Like 21?
I
And
think
this
she's
is a
like
pretty,
15.
yeah,
She's
she's
Millie's
21. She's
age.
21.
Isn't she younger?
She's
Is she
21.
21?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. But like being 21 and playing like this kind of a serious role. Same with Simpkins, Ty, whatever his name is. It was Thomas. Like these two definitely showed like they can stand with the top dogs. Also, Liz, beautiful actor, and then obviously Brendan.
I don't think I can say anything that hasn't said anything. So yeah, I think you guys nailed it on the acting and stuff, and I think honestly they couldn't have done a better job.
Perfect. I think my final thoughts. I think it was a fantastic project. Brendan Fraser definitely deserved his award. I think the
Agreed.
prop guys deserved their award. The setting of the show could have been a little bit better, but yeah, that's pretty much it. But I think the director has achieved what he needed to achieve, which is okay. And yeah, I think going forward from here, hopefully Brendan Fraser can do some more stuff that can inspire people, given obviously his background. Yeah, so that brings us to the end of the Table Talk podcasts. Please, can you tune in for the next episode? We are looking into watching the Banshee of Inisherin, which I believe is a very exciting movie to watch. Please feel free to subscribe to the channel or to the Spotify links. Would be much appreciated. And tune in to my boy Colin. He has done the music for us. That would be also quite a good boost for him. And yeah, if you really enjoyed yourselves, let us know, like the videos. And yeah, thank you guys.
And one last thing, make sure to hit that like or dislike and let us know in the comments so we can do better. And
hit
hit
either
that
or, to be honest.
notification bell just to keep up to date in case when we
Yeah.
upload any shit. But yeah,
I mean, if you don't like it, really dislike it. We need the fucking feedback.
yeah. Any comments would be appreciated.
Yeah.
Cool.
But
Well,
thank you so much, guys. Yeah, till the next movie that we watch. And yeah,
To infinity and beyond.
what a chat.
thanks, gentlemen.
Thank you.